Okay. In the last session, we just worked on this FBDI, file-based data import, for supplier import as well as open invoice import. Fine. So done. Okay, this we marked as completed. Now we'll see what are the pending concepts. Then later we'll see this reporting. Invoice approvals pending and withholding tax and PO based invoice, right? To test this PO based invoice, we have to complete purchasing configuration. That we'll do later. Okay, when we are working on purchasing, once PO is ready, which is approved, we'll create invoice by matching with the PO. That we'll see a bit later. And we'll see the withholding tax configuration and process. Okay. What is the concept of withholding tax? It's very simple. So if you are going to create invoice, if you are creating the invoice, in the normal cases, say for example, you have transaction with invoice with a 10,000 and 10,000 invoice if tax is applicable as a 10%, 10,000 plus 10%, 11,000. Okay, including the tax, will be making the payment to supplier. But in case of withholding tax, what happens is if withholding tax is applicable on the transaction, the tax amount will deduct from the invoice amount. The tax amount will pay to the tax authority, remaining amount will be paying to standard supplier, right? So to test that case, okay, to test that case, what we'll do is first we'll see what setups we have to just complete. Since everything we are comparing with EBS, I'll just give the list of setups which we do generally in EBS. Whether the same we are going to do or slightly those are changed, you can understand. They change some naming convention. There are a few other points also. So when I talk about just, I'll give you the list of setups as per EBS. Okay, it won't take much time, just simple points I'll list out. In EBS, what we'll do is we'll create the tax authority as supplier. Then we'll set up, say we'll configure payable options for withholding tax, right? There will be one tab called as configure payable within the payable options. There will be one tab called as withholding tax. Under that we'll be doing that setups. At what point of time withholding tax need to be calculated should generate the invoice. Okay, then we'll create a special calendar, right? We'll create the special calendar. Then we'll create withholding tax code. Okay, we'll create the withholding tax codes, and by grouping the multiple codes, we know like one code you can create as one group. I request you all to mute your mics, please. I can hear noise from someone. Nick, can you mute yourself? I'm going to do that. Yep. Okay, thanks. Okay, create withholding tax codes. If you have multiple codes, you can group and you can create the withholding tax group. Even if you don't have multiple tax codes, still you have to create the withholding tax group. But when you are creating the code, if you are going to have only one code, the code you can create as a group by selecting the relevant checkbox. You have one checkbox which will allow the system to create the code as a group. So anyway, we'll just take that point, create withholding tax groups. Okay, after creating the withholding tax groups, what we'll do is we'll assign withholding tax group to standard supplier. For which supplier withholding tax is applicable for that supplier. Assign withholding tax group to standard supplier. Okay, and the other point here is once we're done with these setups, so when you are setting the payable options for withholding tax, there we have option at what point of time system has to calculate the withholding tax and what is the triggering point to create the withholding tax invoice. Say generally we can go with the invoice validation time. So we want system to calculate and create the withholding tax invoice at the time of invoice validation. In that case, what happens is we'll create the standard invoice. Okay, and we'll perform the validation. The moment you perform the validation, I'll take the amount here, something like 10,000 I'll take. Okay, think like this tax we are taking 10%. Okay, tax is 10%. Let me take here. So once you do the validation, what system will do? Okay, system will create the withholding tax invoice. So how much percent tax is applicable? 10%. Means with 1,000, system will create the withholding tax invoice. So that means this 1,000 will get deducted from this standard invoice. Okay, from this standard invoice, 10,000 amount, 1,000 will be deducted with a, that is a tax amount. With the tax amount, system will create the withholding tax invoice, and remaining 9,000 only we can pay to the supplier. Payment to standard supplier would be 9,000. Remaining 1,000 to tax authority. Okay, say payment to tax authority would be $1,000. So withholding tax invoice will be created against tax authority based on the setups which we do. Okay, we'll see that anyway. This is a just standard, this is a process we follow in EBS, and we know one point very well: special calendar is not mandatory. Okay, special calendar is not mandatory because we know in EBS we have a different rate structures. If that rate structure is going to be flat, it's not required. It's going to be period range and all. In that case only we require special calendar as a mandatory. But now we can ignore the special calendar since that is not going to be mandatory in the process. You can ignore it. That's it. Finally, these you can take as a setups. And one more point here: if you are going to do the same setups, almost same setups in Fusion also it will work, but in the previous versions it will work. Of course, we don't have any payable options. Instead of payable options, they're given other options. Through those options you can do the same setups. Till I can say till release 9 version. Till release 9 version in Fusion, same setups will do and it will work. But in this latest version, slightly they changed. So what setups we have to do in case of release 11 environment? We'll see the setups. Now we'll see what setups we have to execute in Fusion. So yes, this setup, first we have to create tax authority as supplier, same, and configure payables options for withholding tax. This is as per EBS payable options. In any version of Fusion, the options are totally different. So there will be options called as withholding tax options. Okay, so those you can say, I'll just say configure, say something tax reporting, and we'll have something withholding tax options. Okay, separate task they given to set up tax related information. Okay, separate task they given to do only tax related configuration. In case of EBS, within the payable options, we have separate tab for withholding tax. Under the tab we can do, but in Fusion, this has to be done as a separate task. Okay. Then here, to create the withholding tax codes, okay, we have to create the withholding tax codes. If you want to create the withholding tax codes, you have to use certain task. So just let me mention here. Tax, the name we have something like manage tax codes. This is the task we have to use. By using the manage tax codes, you can create the withholding tax codes. Okay, and as per EBS or as per Fusion previous versions, we'll go and create the withholding tax group. But in the latest version, the task name they changed. Okay, so this task name probably you can find as withholding tax classifications. Say you may find the task as manage withholding tax classifications. The previous versions in Fusion also you can see create withholding tax groups only. But in the latest version, the naming convention they changed. The tax withholding tax group task naming convention they changed to manage withholding tax classifications. Okay. Then as we discussed, the withholding tax group will assign to the standard supplier on which a supplier withholding tax should get calculated. And this process remains same. Done. Sorry. So anyway, this we know very well in EBS. This is all about Fusion. Okay, these setups we are going to do. We know here will be when you talk about create tax authority as supplier, we'll create supplier how we create normal supplier. Only additional point is we'll specify their supplier type as a tax authority. That makes the difference. And when you talk about configure tax reporting and withholding tax options, here basically we'll go and enable as a withholding tax is applicable for our business unit. And again we'll be setting the options what level withholding tax should get calculated. And other option is uh, we'll go and create the withholding tax codes, how many taxes we have related to withholding by using the task called as manage tax codes. Then to group the multiple tax codes, we can create the withholding tax group, but the group creation name only as per Fusion. That to latest version. In the previous versions, you can find as withholding tax group, but in this latest version which we are using, that is release 11, the naming convention they changed to manage withholding tax classifications. Okay, just why I'm referring these points, you may see already clients are using that the previous versions also. When you get opportunity of working on Fusion, maybe it's for support. Okay, this information will be useful. That's the reason just I'm referring. Otherwise, there is no meaning in that. Okay, then finally, we'll go and assign withholding tax group to supplier. Before that, we'll enable that withholding tax for the supplier, and we'll be assigning the same information profile level as well as site assignment level. The two levels will be assigning. Then we'll create the invoice with our standard supplier. You know our standard supplier is as per our system Fusion supplier 2, right? This is a supplier we are using. With this supplier we'll create the invoice. The moment you do the validation, system will create the withholding tax invoice. How system is creating when you do the validation, through these options will specify at what point of time system has to calculate, it has to create the withholding tax invoice. Then with the tax amount it will create withholding tax invoice. The remaining amount will pay to the standard supplier, and tax amount will pay to the tax authority. Okay, we'll see the same in the system now. Okay, so I'm just going to that instance. So our user is Fusion and enter password. Sorry. Just click on user. Click on setup and maintenance. See, every time what we are doing is, every time we are just clicking on this user and we are clicking on setup and maintenance, so that we'll be landing on FSM page. Again here we are clicking on implementation projects. Okay, and again we are clicking on overview to navigate to our project. So I can just with some simple, I can make simple shortcut. What I'll do is, see, I'll just go to that setup and maintenance to reduce one step every time, to reach our project. So just take this navigation, then go to implementation projects. So here you can give your implementation project name, that is nothing but Fusion. Okay, search your search, you can save it, save your search results, set as a default. Done, I saved it. Now click on done. Now next time if you are navigating Fusion setup and maintenance, click on just implementation projects. You searched and saved the results, so you can see here directly. Otherwise, normally we have to click one more time on this overview, then you can see the overview of the project, your project information. If you want to go to that page, you can click on that. Otherwise, from here only we can enter into our project. So that's what I'm trying to give you the simple point. Okay, anyway, now our target is setups. Okay, our target is setups. So first create tax authority as a supplier. So to create the tax authority, we don't need to go to create the supplier or tax authority, anything, we don't need to go to the project, directly go to navigator. Go to navigator. Under procurement, we have a supplier task. Click on supplier's task. Sorry. So to create the supplier, click on this task panel and say create supplier. Give supplier name. Say I'm going to give the name as Fusion Tax Authority, or say Fusion Withholding Tax Authority. Withholding Tax Authority. Okay, Withholding Tax Authority. Business relationship, already we discussed. If you select spend authorized, directly you can use that supplier. If you select as a prospective supplier, okay, with the prospective supplier you cannot have any transaction. In fact, you cannot create site also, because site also you cannot create. It's all about the proposed prospective supplier. The supplier need to be converted as a spent authorized. Once a prospective is converted as spent authorized, then only you can use that supplier in the system for transactions. Anyway, now we'll go with a spent authorized, where which allows you to have a transaction. And tax organization type, you can select any value which where it falls into. It can be government agency or anything, but just I'm selecting as a corporate, nothing wrong in this. You may select more relevant to this definition as a government agency, but remember one point, these values doesn't have any functionality, just for information. Okay, there is no functionality behind those values which you are selecting. But here we have a functionality, how system will behave, that is there in case of business relationship, not in the tax organization type. Click on create. Okay, done. So supplier profile is created. Now go to addresses, click on create. Address name I am giving as Fusion Withholding Tax address, just to fill and complete this definition, I'm just giving some name. So this address belongs to which country? US. Search, select, and say OK. Just you may fill these lines also with the same text. Select location, select any one of the location. So what is the purpose of this address? This is all about tax authority address, right? So we don't have any other purposes other than remit to. Only for payment we'll be using. We never procure something from tax authority. We never send request for any RFQs. We don't request for any quotations, no bidding with a tax authority. So only the address purpose we can select as remit to. Done. And optionally, if you want to set sorry, default payment method, you can set at address level. Otherwise, you can ignore it. Select this check and go to these advanced options and select as a default. It will set to default. Now you can say save and close. Address we created. Now we'll create the site. Sites. Go to sites. Click on create. To create the site, it's very simple. The same address, the site you are to create against which address. With one address, you can have multiple sites. It's all about naming convention you can change. So here, I'll give the name as withholding tax site 1. The purpose is pay purpose only, payment purpose. Now to set site assignments and all these relevant options, we should save it. Then only these options will get enabled. Let's save it. Done. Now go to payments tab to set the default payment bill. Since we given in the address level, same is defaulting, because this address level we given same is defaulting. And just go to site assignments, because sometimes it's not happening. That's the reason just I take a navigation. Generally it should happen. Okay, sometimes when you go there it's not defaulting, so that's the reason just I tried with that. Site assignments, go to site assignments, click on create. This site we are going to assign to our business unit. Fusion US business unit. That's all. So other information is not required. So save and close. Okay. Now we created supplier. How normal supplier can be created. Now what makes the difference between standard supplier and withholding tax authority? Definitely not name. Name system cannot understand and it cannot act. Only the point is, go to profile. Under profile we have a supplier type. Select supplier type as tax authority. These supplier types, whatever you are selecting, has functionality behind it. Based on that value which you are selecting, it will behave in the system environment. Okay, tax authority. Okay, if you select as supplier type of tax authority, then only this tax authority will be available, okay, to map with the relevant tax codes. Otherwise this supplier won't be available to assign the tax codes. Fine, we'll see that. Say save and close. Okay, completed. We created supplier tax authority as a supplier. We're done with this. Now we'll just go on to set as for our business unit withholding tax is applicable, as well as what are the triggering points to calculate withholding tax and to generate the withholding tax invoice. Okay, just go and search with the withholding tax options. For that we have to navigate to implementation project. Click on user, then click on setup and maintenance. Click on implementation projects. Click on this project. Say withholding tax options, you can search with the term, or else this would be the actual name. Okay, manage tax configuration and withholding tax option, not this un symbol. You have to write AND. And okay, so anyway, we'll go and search with this term. We should get it. Withholding tax options. Withholding tax options. Just drag little right. So manage tax reporting under withholding tax options. Okay, just click on this task. By default it will take all, but there will be one parameter which is mandatory where system cannot decide to take which value is required. That anyway we'll go and see it. Just dragging little right. Okay, just click on go to task icon. Certain tasks generally take some time. It won't get opened like how other tasks, just most of the tasks will open. Few specific tasks generally this kind of experience will have. Okay, like procurement agent definition, and even in purchasing also when you do some setups. Okay, procurement function setup, and few setups definitely is require some time to open. Yep. So by default already system is selected our business unit because we are trying to do this setup from our project. Only the point what system cannot understand to select is event class. For which event class the withholding tax should get applicable. Standard invoice we can select as a standard invoice, or for prepayment says standard invoice. So for this business unit withholding tax is applicable or not? Yes, apply withholding. Yes, the by default system selecting, but based on your requirement you can do it. Process transaction taxes. Process transaction taxes nothing but this is something like some it's like more related to fusion tax related configuration. Okay, process transaction tax. You can just ignore, you can disable it, or you can keep it same. There won't be an issue with this. Okay, you can accept or you can reject. I mean, you can uncheck also. There won't be an issue. You have to make sure that apply withholding tax, this checkbox should get enabled. This is not mandatory, this is also not mandatory. If you want to ignore, you can ignore it. You can just uncheck this. And the calculation point, at what point of time system has to calculate the withholding tax, select as invoice. And tax invoice creation point, tax invoice creation means withholding tax invoice creation only. The rounding and all set to start date. So I'm selecting today's date. Okay, and this is already enabled. This is very important for us. It's enabled. So that's all. I'll just go and uncheck this. I don't want to calculate transaction taxes, means it's more related to uh, fusion tax. Okay, this can be used for that process purpose also. So apply withholding tax, you can select it. Now say save and close. It's completed. Okay. Now we'll go and create the withholding tax codes. To create the tax codes, we have a task called as manage tax codes. Search for manage tax codes. Okay, manage tax codes. Okay, click on create. Here, when you compare with EBS setups or Fusion previous version setups, they made simple change where it's mandatory how to create tax registration and sorry, tax regime and all those information. But it's a simple setup we can do. Okay, so select your business unit, Fusion US business unit, and country. Select country name. Country code is US. Tax regime code. Yeah, please.
Lakshman. So in like EBS, the tax regime code, this is all part of EB tax. Yes.
Yeah, correct. If you already have if you create tax regime in EBS, EBT, I mean here we call as fusion tax. EBT in
Okay.
Artol here we call as fusion tax. Already you have a tax regime code within the fusion tax that you can select and use here. But we didn't create.
Okay.
We are going to test that basic configuration and flow of fusion tax also. But by this time we didn't do any setups. So that's the reason we are going to create here one. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So fusion tax is almost similar to EB tax.
Similar, not same naming convention they given as fusion tax. EBT as per EBS, that's EBT, e-business tax. The same
EB.
application name here they named it as a fusion tax, same
Okay.
as it
Okay.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go and create the tax regime, which is a very simple setup from here. That's it. So you know how you'll be creating from uh, withholding tax. I mean EBS case. It's a little bit more fields and all will be problem. But here to support this withholding tax, we don't need more than this information to define it. I'll give it as fusion withholding tax regime. Same fusion withholding tax regime and start date. I'll go with the today date. There won't be issue with the date. Say save and close. Now here we have to create the tax code. Okay, select it. No code we have. We this is setup also related to withholding tax code. Okay, see we search the task name with the max manage tax codes, but ultimately it will navigate us to withholding tax code definition only. So we have to create a new tax code here. Click on create. Okay, this is the place where we can map this tax with the tax authority. Even in EBS also same we do. At the time of tax code definition time only, we can map that code to respective tax authority. The tax need to be calculated and reported to which tax authority, that we'll do in EBS or here. So the same logic and the same setup. So I'll give the name as fusion withholding. The naming convention for a display purpose I'm giving 10%. Start date, effective date, that means. And here you can provide tax liability account. I'm not sure that payables tax liability account we have, I mean withholding tax liability account we have or not. Okay, no issues. I'm sorry, really sorry. I'm just searching for
You are
account in
selecting
the.
on the
Yeah, got it,
company.
got it, got it. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm sorry. So here, basically company, right? I'm searching for account values within that. Really sorry. So department, here search for withholding tax account. Yep, withholding tax payable account. Say okay. Now, if you are going to calculate the tax by using this tax code, the tax should the tax should be reported to which tax authority. You have to select here. Now here we can find our tax authority, but you cannot find our standard supplier. We have a standard supplier also, but you cannot find. Only you can find the tax authority. Reason our tax authority supplier is classified supplier type as a tax authority. That is the reason only you just will get this value here. Select the site. Okay, and say save and close. So we just created tax code here. Fine. By default, system is defaulting tax status code as a standard tax rate. Yes, you can accept the same. The rate code you can give here. Same tax name only I'll give as a rate code also. And tax rate type is percentage. And here threshold base and all we don't require. Okay, straight away you can go to. Okay, see threshold rate means depending on you can use the withholding tax calendar and all, because there in EBS case we have a rate structures, right? But here we are calling threshold basis. That not required for us. Just directly go to rate period. Under that, just click on add row. Here you can give the actual percentage for this tax. So here already within the name itself you written 10%. So we should take the same 10%. And effective start date for this tax rate, select today's date, and the same liability account is just getting defaulted. That's all, you don't need to change anything. So see here one checkbox we have, create tax classification code. If you enable it, that means the tax code itself will be created as a classification, nothing but group. In EBS also we have, when you are creating withholding tax code, there itself automatically create withholding tax group, the checkbox we have. The same way here, classification nothing but group. Done with this, then say save and close. So next task is classification only. Tax classification we have to create. It's nothing but group when you compare with EBS. Okay, we'll go and create the tax classifications. Code we created. Now we are going to create tax classification. Then click on done. Okay, here itself we have a task next to withholding tax codes. So manage withholding tax classifications, nothing but tax group. Click on go to task icon. Here click on create. Seems to nobody created in this environment except vision values. Fine. So vision withholding tax group. I'll give the name. Of course, the naming convention is classification, but I'll write as a group only. Give start date. Here through group, what we can do, we can group the multiple tax codes. That's it. Okay. So direct tax rate rules, click on add row, select your business unit, Fusion US business unit. Okay, and select tax rate code whatever we defined. Okay, select it. The system will default all the information. Okay, that's all. Then you can say save and close. Okay, we created group also, classification also. Now this withholding tax group we have to assign to supplier. Before that we have to enable and we will be assigning. We'll go into it. Our standard supplier is Fusion supplier 2. Okay, directly you can go to the supplier, go to navigator. Under procurement we have a suppliers function task, click on that. Okay, find your suppliers, click on, go to task panel. Here we have a task called as manage suppliers. So Fusion supplier 2, click on search. Okay, then here click on supplier, it will open. And now we are in the supplier profile level. Under profile level, go to income tax tab. Here enable use withholding tax and select whatever the tax group you created. Fusion withholding tax group. Okay, profile level, supplier profile level, under income tax tab, enable use withholding tax and set withholding tax group as a default group at profile level. Then save it. Now go to directly sites and go to site assignments. These are the site assignments. Okay, just open the site. From there you can see the site assignments. Which site we assign. Go to site assignments. Site assignment level. Here we have a use withholding tax for this business unit, for this supplier site. Combination of the supplier site and the BU. Just enable use withholding tax. Then withholding tax group field will get enabled if once you enable it. Select tax group. Fusion withholding tax group. That's all. Okay, site assignment level also we are enabling. We are setting that withholding tax group. Now say save and close. Completed. So based on our setup, system will calculate and it will create the withholding tax invoice at the time of invoice creation, right? So we are done with all the setups. Now we'll go and create the invoice. Okay, now we'll go and create the invoice with all and standard invoice with the 10,000. Go to invoice workbench. Invoices. Go to task panel, say create invoice. Since we set that profile option, okay, by using the administrator profile values profile option, we set a profile option called as default business unit. That is the reason RB only defaulting, but if you want to override anytime you can override. So supplier is Fusion supplier 2. For this supplier, withholding tax is applicable. The applicability we define. I'll say invoice 2. So as we discussed here, let's enter 10,000 or any amount we can enter, and it will calculate 10% on that. I'll go with the 10,000 as we discussed. Okay, since a distribution set we have as default at supplier level, it's taking. Now here make it 10,000. Now just submit for validation. Whenever you submit for validation, system will create the withholding tax invoice automatically. Okay. Some hold system created. Is this the hold? Click on that hold. Seems to some technical issue. Invoice is validated. Okay, but generally that error it should not come. Okay, just anyway, just invoice is validated. Since invoice is validated, system has to create the withholding tax invoice. We'll go and find the withholding tax invoice with withholding tax authority, right? The withholding tax authority name, system has to create the withholding tax invoice. So save and close. So here manage invoices. So supplier name is Fusion withholding tax. Okay, it's a business unit name, sorry. Okay, Fusion withholding tax. Click on search, you should find the withholding tax invoice. Yes. There is some system error, that's the reason it's not showing. Shit. Fine. And other point I want to tell you, just every day the regular classes, what are the instance we are using, that is a totally different. And today what are the instance we are using, that is a different. Why just I moved from one instance to other instance is, in previous instance, the invoice approvals are not working. That's the reason all setups once again I did in this environment. That's the reason the setups and naming conventions you can see as is. But unfortunately, withholding tax is not working within this. Now what I'll do is, I'll switch to our instance. Okay, previous instance, there I'll show the withholding tax. There it is working, but here it's not working. Let me try with that option because that is causing this issue or what. 1 second just. this and all. Okay, done. When it seems to there is some issue in this environment, what I'll do is I'll switch to other environment. Quickly, I'll just complete the same setups. I don't take more than 5 minutes time to complete that. So this is other instance which we are using every day. Today I use this new one. Here also same credentials we have. Just go and create supplier. Say create supplier. We have with this name already. Vision company, vision tax, ignore matching. Okay, so matching is showing us the same fusion. We are trying to create fusion withholding tax authority, and it's showing there is a fusion companies already existed. But ignore it. Ignore match results and create supply. Fine, here you have to set supply type as a tax authority. Just save it. Then go to address, create. Say okay. It's optional, but just I'm providing some data. Select as a remit to. Maybe optional you can provide the default payment method for address level. Say save and close. Go to sites. Save up to here. Then go to payments tab to set default payment method for this site. Sorry, so defaulting right. Now just assign the site to business unit. And now we have to go and set the tax options, withholding tax options. I think in this environment already those are saved, I guess. Anyway, we'll just go and open once. Search. Okay, just select the class start invoice. Okay, it's a save and close. I think starting date and all we have to provide here. 19. See, if you enable this, you can use in the Fusion tax also. That's it. Other than that, there is no use with that. But generally, for these setups, not required. Okay. So we're done with that. Now we'll go and create the tax codes. So manage tax codes. Select country as US. Just create tax regime code. So copy and paste. withholding tax payable. Select tax authority. Okay. Just I can give the same name as a code here. To just go to trade periods, 10%, 19 today date. So that's all. You can say save and close. Now we'll create the classification, nothing but group. So done. Group and the start date, today date, and click on this add row. Select your business unit. Fusion US business unit. Select tax code. Withholding at 10%. Then save and close. Now this group we have to assign to standard supplier. Okay, we've done up to this. The tax group we have to assign to standard supplier. Now go to the supplier. Our supplier name is Fusion Supplier 2. So profile level we have to go to income tax, enable, select withholding tax group, Fusion withholding tax group, save it. Now go to sites, open the sites, go to site assignments, enable withholding tax and select group. Okay, done, completed. Now we can go and create invoice and system should calculate the withholding tax. So create invoice. Fusion supplier 1 invoice number. Here I'll enter say 25,000. Let's go with the same 10,000. 10,000. Then validate. The moment you click on validate, system will create the withholding tax. Validated. So it means validated in the sense it's a system calculated withholding tax. Okay, that here you can see withholding tax is 10% means 1,000. Total 10,000, so 9,000. See, in the first what we tried in that instance seems there is some issue. There is a new instance we never used for training, because in the current instance which we are using, within that uh, invoice approvals, no approvals are working. Not only invoice approvals or purchasing approvals, no approvals are working. That is the reason all these setups once again I did in that instance. Today I'll show you that invoice approvals configuration and how it works and all, because in this current environment what we are using right from beginning, it's not working. Approvals are not working. There's some technical issue bug we have with that approvals BPM. So that's the reason I planned to show without invoice approvals within that. Along with that, I thought of showing the same withholding tax also in the same environment, but we experienced with some issue and also now anyway in this environment is working fine. Okay, if you want to go and see that withholding tax invoice, sorry, just go to manage invoices. Directly you can give the supplier name. BU is not mandatory if you give supplier name. So supplier name is Fusion Withholding Tax Authority. Right, with this supplier only the tax amounts that invoice will be created. Now click on search, you can find the withholding tax invoice. Yes, this is the invoice system created. You can click on this invoice number. Then click on actions, then click on edit, so more options will be open. Just validate this invoice and you can account and you can make the payment. Ultimately we are going to make the payment to tax authority, because the amount which we deducted to pay to the tax authority, invoice type is withholding. Like in EBS, same concept and same setups. Slightly the naming convention they changed, and the place where we do slightly they changed. Apart from that, you don't see any change in Fusion compared to that. Okay, that's all about this. Now I have to switch to other instance, because in this instance invoice approvals are not working. I have a new instance for that. Yeah. The same naming convention, everything as it is, without just a single definition mismatch also. I just created everything in this instance also. This is the new instance. Okay. Fine. Done. This is all about withholding tax. Now we'll see the invoice approvals. Okay, invoice approvals. So when you talk about invoice approvals as per EBS, the invoice approvals you can configure from AME, Approval Management Engine. Through AME you can do the setups. If you want to do the setups for say journal approvals, in EBS if you want to define the journal approvals you can configure from GL itself. And if you want to do the purchasing setups, purchasing approvals, you can do the setups from purchasing. That means few setups will do from AME, few setups will do from respective application. But in the Fusion, any application approvals, okay, for which applications approvals are applicable, for all the approvals you can set from BPM. As per EBS, AME, now in Fusion, BPM, Business Process Management. It can be any kind of approvals, any kind of process related notifications or whatever, however you want to, based on the process, however you want to notify someone, or how you want to send some kind of request to somebody to approve it. All these can be managed by BPM, Business Process Management. Any approvals, it can be invoice approvals or journal approvals or PO approvals, all you can do from BPM. So within the BPM, we have a different workflows for respective process related approval configuration. Okay, and when you talk about these approvals, we have a different approvals. You can set the approvals resource level. When you are setting the approvals, straight away you can select the user, and you can specify for so and so user this is the approval limit, or more than means more than this limit means approval that should goes to which user, mean to say which resource employee. Here when you say user, it's based on employee only. We are creating the user, it's nothing but employee user. There is a one option where you can set resource level approvals, you can set otherwise supervisory approvals, you can set, or else you can group multiple users. For all the users you can set some approval limits. Okay, so up management chain, you can create the hierarchy. That's how you can set the job level, position level, different levels we can set the approvals. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll go with the simple rule. Okay, for now I'll show you that how the configuration need to be done, how it works. Okay, because already just now we are running the I think 20th session, but still we are standing in payables only. Then think like all the other applications are left. So for now anyway, like since this is our one of the concept as per our course uh, content course agenda, so I'll be covering this. And if you are expecting more than that, if you are expecting different scenarios, if time permits, definitely I'll show you. Okay, anyway, one before we complete, I'll just try to show you, if we are not going to spend too much time for these other concepts, other modules and all. We'll see that. But anyway, as a course agenda, I'll be covering this. I'll take you the simple case here. The current user, say we have a user called as Fusion user, and say for my requirement is if invoice amount is going to be say for this Fusion user amount, if amount is going to be same or less than 50,000, I want to allow this Fusion user to approve the invoice. If invoice amount is more than 50,000, that invoices should goes to other employee. Now for that reason, what we'll do is we'll go and create the employee. I'll create employee as a Fusion India. I'll create one more user, Fusion India. For a Fusion India user or say employee, I want to give the limit as say more than 50,000. Okay, more than 50,000. So in case of Fusion user can approve the invoice if an amount is 50,000 or less than 50,000. If amount is more than 50,000, that should get approved by Fusion India. So this kind of scenario simply you can achieve by using approval group concept or resource based approvals. I'll show you. First we'll go with approval group. Okay, later just once we go there, I'll be showing which options are available. Now to test this functionality, what we have to do is, okay, already this user we have ready in the system, and we have to create one more user. We have to create one more user, create new user based on our scenario. What setups require, I'm just making out. Create new user called as Fusion India. It's not mandatory how to assign the roles to this Fusion India, just we have to send the notification only. In that case roles are not required, but if you want to assign payables related roles, you can assign. We'll create user. When you create new user, what is the process, what roles required we can assign. Otherwise in this scenario roles also not required, notification directly will go if there is user existed. And once if you assign the roles, you have to run the LDAP program, that we don't need to discuss. Done. Now what we have to do is we'll go and create the two groups for these two different limits, authorization limits. What I'll do is create approval group for 50,000. Okay, same or less than 50,000. Create approval group for say Fusion user, simple point for Fusion user, and create another approval group for Fusion India user. I'm just taking here example. The group I'll be creating for one user. One group you can within I mean you can group multiple employees into one group. But here current example you are taking one within one group you are going to select only one employee. Okay, these two employees will create these two groups. After creating these two groups, and for each group you have to create separate tax rules. Okay, tax rule. Sorry, I'm sorry. Approval rules. We have to create approval rules. So for this group, we'll create one approval group. For this group, we'll create another approval group. We have to create the approval rules. When we are doing it, we'll talk about it. If you have any clarification required, we can discuss. But let me just list out the setups. Then we can start working on that. When we are doing that, we'll try to understand few more points there itself. Okay, we'll create the approval rules. How many approval rules we require? We have, since we have two groups, we'll create the two approval rules. One rule which says if invoice amount is same or less than 50, that should goes to Fusion user. And if other rule says if invoice amount is more than 50,000, then it should goes to Fusion India user only, or say India employee only. Okay, first we'll create the user, then we'll create two approval groups to support these two approval different authorization limits, and we'll create approval rules. How many we'll create? Two will be creating. The reason is we have two groups, for each group one rule. Once we're done with the setups, in payables, in invoice options, we have to enable invoice approvals. Say enable invoice approvals checkbox in invoice options. That's all. So once we're done with the setups, as a part of testing, what we'll do is first we'll create one standard invoice with 25,000, and the 25,000 invoice should get approved by Fusion user only. So that will test it. And after testing this, again we'll create one more standard invoice. I'll create with 60,000. Then this invoice also will create from the Fusion user only, but this invoice should goes to Fusion India for approval purpose. This is what we are going to test. Okay, we'll see these setups one by one. First we'll go and create the new user called as Fusion India to test this if user is going to enter amount more than $50,000. Okay, let's go into it. Create one more user. We know from where we can create the user. So go to setup and maintenance task. It will navigate us to functional setup manager. Here task name is manage job roles. Manage job roles. Then just click on this task. Username. Okay, I'll do one thing. Just it's don't sync with the reality. What I'll do is instead of creating the IDM user, I'll create the employee user. Okay, I'll create the employee user. It won't display directly. Here, just go with this. So under my team, we have a task called as manage users. Okay, there is no other alternative option. Few tasks generally takes more than what actual time it has to take, because it has to connect to HCM domain and it has to get the privileges to open this. Done. Opened. Now we know how to create the employee user. Already we created the same process. Again, we are going to follow to create one more employee user. Fine. Name I want to give as a Fusion India. Of gmail.com. I need username also with the same. Just uncheck the checkbox and select person type as a employee. Select legal employer. Our legal employer name is Fusion USA legal entity. Say okay. Select business unit. So save and close. Now go to IDM to reset the password for this user. Setup and maintenance. So manage job roles. Search. Click on this task. Then click on this administration console. Find here what are the user you created from HCM. Nothing but manage users means employee user. We know that. So user which we created is Fusion India. Click on go. You can find here. Select the same. Click on the display name. The record will open. Here you can reset the password. I mean, first time we are setting, but the function wise here only we have reset. Sorry. Uncheck email notification, then reset password. So this user we are going to use just to send the notification only, but if at all you want to assign few roles also to this user, since we are using for payables purpose, you can assign, but it's not mandatory. But if see one point here, if you assign the role, which role will display the payables dashboard, then you can find that notification in the dashboard. Otherwise, by default, there will be notification for every user. You can find from there. But just will go and assign, since we are treating this user also a system for payables process. Payable Fusion US business unit. You know we have a 3 roles already. We know these roles. So the same, like I'm just giving access to 3 roles to this user also, but not mandatory. Okay, just I'm assigning. Since new user and all, I'll just go and submit LDAP. I'll just submit and we'll proceed with the other task. Okay, to get pop-up window, type some test and tab out. Here we have to submit LDAP. Select job name called as retrieve latest LDAP changes, then say OK and say OK. Then without any additional parameters, we can submit it. Say submit. Say OK. And close it. Okay, no issues. System will run and it will complete. You don't need to wait for this. So we created this user. Now we have to go and create the approval groups. Okay, approval groups. In each group, we'll select one user. First group will select this user, and second group will select this user, or you call it a user or employee, anything. You can group multiple users or employees into one group. That is possible. We'll see that. Now, if you want to create the approval groups and rules you can create from BPM only. These approval groups and rules, everything you can create from BPM. Now we have to navigate to BPM. Okay, to navigate to BPM, we have a task. This task you can search from our project or from outside of the project also. There won't be an issue. Just it's all about navigating to other application. So I'll search from here. Not required to search from project only. Task name is say manage approval groups for financials. Okay, so manage approval groups for financials. So this is the actual task name. Okay, click on this task. It will take us to BPM. Okay, now I will go and create the approval groups. Just click on create. Give the group name. Fusion. Group name I'll give group name say okay AP less than 50,000. We know same or less than, that is the actual rule, but here the group name, just for easy identification purpose, I'm giving the name like that. You may write here same or less than 50,000. Accordingly you can select the users or employees into that. So I just given the group name, then click on add members. Here member is nothing but employee or say user. So which users you want to allow to approve the invoices same or less than 50,000, you have to select here. Here we have a user, or else other approval group you can take into this group also. Click on search. Your username is so employer username is Fusion. Then click on search. Okay, we have many users, seems to be the same, just but we can find our user. Here we have our user Fusion. Then say okay. Then say okay. In the same way, if you want to add multiple employees into this group, you can add it. Again, click on this, again select another user, it will be added in this group. That's it. Then save it. We created one approval group, and we'll go and create one more approval group. To create one more, click on create. Here I'll copy the same. Click on create. I will paste the same name and I'll say more than. And click on just add members. So who can approve if invoice amount is more than $50,000? That we are going to set. We are going to select those members into this group. let's say Fusion India. Search. This employee can approve more than $50,000. Say OK. Click on OK. Done. Save it. It's mandatory. You should save it. Then we created approval groups. These two groups we created. Now for to define the, we have to define the rules for two groups. So here we have a other next task as create approval rules for two groups. To create the approval rules within the BPM, here we have a task configuration, which will take us to BPM workflow. Okay, BPM workflows. Just click on task configuration. These are the different workflows we have related to financials. We taken the navigation to come here as a financials, right? Manage approval groups for financials. So these all are finance related workflows. Many workflows we have. Okay. To set the approvals for invoice, which workflow we require. Sorry. Select that workflow. Here we have here. See, fin. Okay, fin AP invoice approval. We have many other holds and some different approvals also, but all we don't require. Just select it. Okay, the workflow we are calling as task configuration. Okay, task configuration. Select fin AP invoice approval workflow. And one more point here is sometimes I have experience this setup properly won't work if you are accessing the instance from Chrome. Okay, in Chrome it won't function sometimes. So I just recommend to use Mozilla. But we don't have that kind of issue, browser compatibility and all. Sometimes it's happening, but nowhere Oracle saying the browser compatibility here we have to take care of. But everything works fine. Only in case of this workflow when you are going to enable or disable the nodes are not functioning if you are trying from Chrome. Let's try. If it is not working, I'll switch to this browser. Okay, since we are within this, we'll try. Okay, now if you go to assignees, here you can see the actual workflow. This is the workflow we have for different reasons. We can set this workflow. Okay, here horizontally we are able to see. If you want to see the same workflow vertical layout, you can click on this. Now you can see this. In this case, you can collapse this. Okay, so this and all invoice related, entire invoice level what you can set with the based on your requirement. This is like line level related approvals. Okay, this and all depending on whether you want to send the notification to one person or multiple people or only forever information notification. It's all about serial approval where it has to uh, it has to go to like in the sequence. To say in the sequence approvals means it will go to once one person will approve in the sequence, it will goes to next person. And if you want to send the notification to multiple people at a time, okay, depending on what level you are setting approvals, accordingly you can choose these all options. Okay, there are these all we call as nodes. Each and every one we call as node 1, node 2, node 3, something like that you can count. They are the different nodes we have. Now if you want to go and do any changes to these nodes as per your requirement, okay, what we have to do is you have to click on edit. You have to click on edit. After click on edit, then it will be open to edit. Just go to assignees, and here simple point I want to share with you. Now these nodes you can see as all are disabled. Okay, all are disabled. By default in the fresh environment, all you can see as enabled. But here in this workflow, only one node is enabled. How can you find one node is enabled? The icon you can see in the blue color. If the icon is represented in the blue color, that means node is enabled. If you see that icons in gray color, like grayed out mode, that you can understand those nodes are disabled. How to enable or disable the nodes? Very simple. This node is enabled. if I place the cursor on this, if I click on this, here it has to open some options. Since now we are in the Chrome, it is not happening. Now I'll switch to Mozilla. It will be functioning. That is the issue we are facing. I'll go to Chrome. I'll copy and paste that same URL. Okay, same username. Vision. We are in the BPM work list only. What I'll do is I'll just cancel from here. What I'll do is I'll save and I'll commit. Otherwise, it will be open from here. Also, there could be some issues for system understanding point of view. Anyway, ignore this, whatever we tried over there. Okay, try when you're practicing also. If it is working Chrome your end, okay, you can do it. Otherwise, just better you can go with the Mozilla only for this concept. Okay, this approvals. Go to task configuration. Approval groups already just now we created, right? Go to task configuration. Here select workflow, which workflow you want to configure. So this is the workflow we want to set up. Fin AP invoice approval. Select it. Okay. So if you want to do any changes to this workflow, if you want to create the rules or whatever, you have to go with edit mode. Click on edit. Then go to assignees tab. And here you can see the nodes. Any node if you want to enable, how to enable it? Simple. Just click on this node. Yeah, this is how the option should open, which is not happening in the Chrome browser through Chrome. See, if I click on this, that options will open here. If I click on this, that will be get selected, that options will open here. Okay, this node is disabled. If I want to enable this node, click on that, go to advanced option. Under that we have one checkbox called as ignore participant. Ignore participant means based on the node, what are the rules we created, all should not work. Ultimately the node also should not work. The meaning is disable. Ignore participant means ignore this node. That's what we have to understand. Of course, approval participants also will be there, but here for our understanding, ignore participant means this entire node system has to ignore. That means disabled. If I just uncheck this, it won't ignore. The same way, just for our understanding, I'll go under disable this option. That means we are enabling that. That's what we have to understand. Okay, now I just unchecked all those. That means I activated. That's what we have to understand. And see, simple point here, one node is enabled. How to disable? Select it. If I want to disable it, enable it. Enable the checkbox means the function, I mean ignore participant. If you say ignore participant, that will be disabled. That's it. So if I want to see the changes, I'll just save it. Save. And you should commit. Okay, save means the particular action what you did, that will be saved. When you commit, the changes will take into consideration for the entire workflow, whatever we are just committing. Done. Now again go to that workflow, just click on edit task and go to assignees. Now you can see those nodes are enabled. See, this you can see in the blue color icons. This one earlier it was enabled, now we disabled. Now what we have to do is, when you are working, if you are working on a fresh environment, okay, the fresh instance, if you are going to do the approval, the recommendation is disable all nodes except what you are going to use. Otherwise, in every node there will be default rule which Oracle is providing, which says approval is not required. Okay, approval is not required. It says one equal to one is equal to one. That means that will be passed everywhere. The validation will be passed, so no approvals will be required. So that's how we'll be finding the rules. So for that reason, whenever you are going to do these approvals, okay, in fresh environment, what are the nodes you see as enabled, first disable it. Now we'll see the actual process. Okay, we have to go to this and click on edit and go to assignees. So now think this is the first time just we are coming to this page. Now what we have to disable all the nodes except what you need. So think all are enabled only here, but if you only enabled, we can see that. So select this node we don't require. Say for example, go to advanced and say ignore participant. Then go to this node and say select advanced, say ignore participant. Select this node, say advanced, say ignore participant. And select this node too and say select advanced option, then say ignore participant. So we want to set up approvals by using this node. So what is the node name? Invoice document approvers single participant 2 in sequence 6. You can set a number of no issues, but here with this node also you can try with all like approval groups you can try, and resource level approvals and supervisor level, any level you can do it. Okay, see this icon indicates like the single, and this icon just indicates for your information participants. For your information notification you want to send to someone, you can do it. But if you see here, this says some parallel. Okay, parallel means at a time the notification should goes to multiple people. And if you see this is a sequence. Okay, it's not single. You place the cursor here, it will come. Okay, serial participants. Okay, there will be sequence where system will follow when it's going to send the approvals. Again here for your information. Okay, for your information, all the nodes, all other nodes also, so says the same icons you can see, those same will represent the same, but again those all we have line level and header level. Okay, so that's how we can set, but we can make the logic in this level also. In the any node level you can go with header level, you want to applicable line level you have to apply the rule. When you are writing you can set it up, there won't be an issue. But what I want to do is this node I want to enable. It's now as of now it's disabled. I want to enable it. We'll be using this node for our testing. Go to advanced, since already selected as ignore, it is disabled. And uncheck this, it will be enabled. To see the changes, whatever enabling, disabling we did, you can click on save. Save, okay, and just say commit. Done. Now we'll see. Okay, we'll see how to define these rules. Our target is defining two rules. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Defining two rules. So already this task is task configuration. Workflow is selected. Then go to edit. Then go to assignees. Now see all the nodes. These nodes all disabled. Earlier you can see as enabled. Only one node you can see as enabled mode. This is the one. Now by using this node, if you want to create any rule, what we have to do is within the node, other than this icon, we have dot icon here. Just click on the dot icon. It's not like just placing the cursor. Click on this. One pop-up will come. Click on this dot icon. Then pop-up is go to rule. Click on go to rule. Okay. Here you can find this is the default one. Okay, this is the default rule what Oracle is providing. What you will do is when we are going to create your own rule, just make sure that the rule is deactivated. How to deactivate the rule? Expand this. Rule is expanded. What is the rule? One is one. Yeah, that's always true. That means no approval is required. Okay, here this rule, if you want to disable this, you are expanding, right? You are expanding. Next to that, there will be advanced settings option. Click on that advanced settings. There you can see one checkbox as by default it will be activated. Yesterday just I disabled. I tested whether in this environment that this is working or not. Since whatever the environment we are using within that approvals are not working, for testing purpose I only disabled. By default it will be enabled mode. You have to disable it. Okay, done. Okay. Okay, just these are the rules I created yesterday. Okay, for to test whether in this environment approvals are not working or not. But so now we are going to create our own rules. The existing rules I'll disable it. Why I'm disabling? It's not mandatory how to disable. If something wrong with these existing rules, when system is going to compile this workflow, will be getting some errors. That is the reason just I'm going to disable existing rules. How to disable? Just you can expand this and you can go to these advanced options. Okay, by default it will be like this. Click on these advanced options, deactivate, and again this rule also I'm going to deactivate. But when you are working in the fresh environment, okay, you will be finding only one, this default rule. Okay, these two I just created, okay, to test whether working in this environment or not. That's all. Okay, I just deactivated all the rules. Now I will save it. Okay, you can save later also, but just I'm saving immediately. Meantime I may just forget to do this saving and all, so that's the reason I'm just saving those. Now just again go to edit, go to assignees. Anyway, it will become good exercise for us. So since first time we are doing this, you can understand the navigations or any actions what we are doing. Go to this node, node. Okay, just click on this dot icon. Sorry, it's directly opened. I just double clicked on the double clicked on that, directly it's open. Go back to SNEs. What is the process? Click on this, pop-up will come, click on go to roles. Now if you just verify these, you can see as a disabled, deactivated. Done. Now we'll create two rules. Two rules for what purpose? First approval group, one rule saying that same or less than. Other rule for more than 50. I'll take the same terms also. I'll say fusion. To create the new rule, click on add rule. I'll give the name as okay, fusion same or less than 50,000. Just for our identification purpose, I'm giving the test here. Now actual rule we have to create by expanding this. Expand. Click on expand. By default our rule is active, which will by default it will be active only. But here we have to write the condition. If condition. If invoice amount is so and so, okay, who can approve? Or else who has to, for whom it has to be rejected. These are all conditions we can write. Let's see that. If I'll go with the invoice amount, click on search, type here as a invoice amount. So just type invoice amount, the automatic system will filter, and here you can see the folder called as invoice header. Expand this invoice header folder, and invoice amount we have, expand this. Directly you can select invoice amount also, but what I want to do is I want to select long value. Long value is nothing but what the value will be entering at the time of invoice creation. That parameter I'm selecting, but it's not mandatory. You can go with this, but sometimes if you go with this only, there are cases which I could see some issues where it was not working properly. Generally it works. Sometimes I come across. That's the reason always I prefer and I recommend you also to select long value. That means invoice amount only you are representing as a long value. That's it. Select this, then say okay. That means the rule name is if invoice header amount is here. What is the rule? So what you are trying to write? Same or less than, right? Say here these are the different rules we have. Same or less than. Don't enter 50,000 directly in this field. You have to go with this process. Click on this search icon, and here scroll little down. The same pop-up, you can find one checkbox called as constant. Enable this constant checkbox. Enter amount here. It will take in the respective format. In which format it has to take, it will take in that format. So what we discussed was, I think, 50,000. Enter 50,000. Okay, then say okay. Right here we taken 50 only. Yes, 50. Done. So if invoice header amount is same or less than 50,000, who can approve? Who can approve? We taken into invoice approval groups. We have within that approval group we have a employee. Now if invoice amount is same or less than 50,000, then what is the condition we are going to set? Then we want to specify who can approve. Say for example, just go to this drop down option. Okay, drop down here, go with the option called as add approver. So these are the different approvals we can set. We can set supervisory approvals directly resource level, means directly you can select here user instead of without creating the approval groups. The approval groups we selected user, but here directly you can create the user. And position means directly position level you can set the approvals, or else you can create the approval management chain. The chain you can select accordingly, the approval will work for wherever these approvals are applicable. And job level also you can set. Now we created an approval group. I'm going to select approval group only. Okay, go to this drop down, and from here say add approver, then select approval group. Okay, so approval response type is required approval group. This is what we selected. List builder is approval group and required. Yes. Who can approve? We created fusion AP less than, that means less, same or less than this. Within this we have a user or employee called as fusion. Okay, done. That's all that you have to select. Now you have to, what you have to do is you have to validate it. It's mandatory, you have to validate, and you have to see the status of the validation also. Click on validate. After submitting for validation, from here you can verify. Scroll little down. Here see you have some up arrow mark. Click on this. It's scrolling is moved top up, so that means the space is open. Scroll little down. Scroll little left. There the validation result you can see. The validation result is no validation error or warning found. That means we create a rule in very proper way. Done. So we created one rule. Now I'll just collapse it. I'll create one more rule now. Say add rule. So here I'll give the name as Fusion India more than $50,000. Okay. Rule name I given as a Fusion India more than $50,000. This just expand it. You can see by default whenever you create new rule, that will be in the by default active only. Here you have to set the conditions. So same process. Invoice amount. Expand this invoice header folder. Expand this invoice amount folder, and I'm going to select long value. Let's say okay. For this rule, the condition is more than, right? If invoice is amount is more than how much, here you can specify. Click on search. Same process. Scroll little down. Here you can see the checkbox called as constant. Select it. Then say 50,000. Okay, then if invoice amount is more than 50,000, who can approve? Go to add approver, then select approval group. select whatever you have. Here we have more than. Within this we have Fusion India as an employee, right? That means Fusion India can approve it. This also we have to submit for validation. It's mandatory, you should do that. Otherwise it won't work. Submitted for validation. Here we got some issue. Double space, somewhere it is showing as a double space within that. The alias. Maybe within this name some double space is coming. I'll remove this. I can write directly. If you're writing manually, you can do double quotes. I'll say more than. Same name it is copying. Whatever the name I given here, this name is copying. I think seems to within this some double quotes. I mean, this double space is coming. That's the reason it's showing error. We'll see that now. Once again, I'll submit for validation. See the message. The alias Fusion India more than 50 contains a double space or invalid something. Okay. What I'll do is I'll change the name. I'll just give Fusion more than 50,000. Now submit for validation. Now it should work. And now you can see no validation error and a warning form. That's it. Here itself you can make sure that you are defining in proper way. We created this and this. Here we given approved group called as Fusion AP more than 50,000. Here in this case we given less than, same or less than actual tool, but here we written as a less than. Done. Everything is fine now. So now two rules we created, then save. And commit. Fine. This setup is not at all applicable for any BU. This is generic setup, but for which BU this rule is applicable, that always depending on within this approved group, whatever the user we have or say employee we have, that employee will be working for so and so business unit. That BU can be any BU. For this employee is going to work for which BU, for that BU these rules will be applicable. Before that we have to make sure that for that BU approvals are applicable. That means we have to enable. Okay, that is a simple point to understand. Okay, we're done with this. Now you want to use approvals in which business unit. For the business unit level you have to enable this invoice approvals by using invoice options. Invoice options will work at BU level. We'll go to that. Go to project. Go to invoice options. It may take 10 to 15 minutes more time. Okay, today like hardly 10 to 15 minutes we can complete the session. Just go to invoice options. Scroll little down. Here we have a approval. You can enable invoice approvals. If you don't want to submit approval without performing the validation and accounting, you can enable. In that case, if you don't validate and do just if you don't account it, you should not submit it for approval. That's how system will enforce the control. That's it, but not required. So save and close. Enable, done. Okay, we're done with all the setups. Now we are going to test the process. When you're testing the process, I just recommend whatever the workflow you have that you refresh, and better if possible you close it. Anyway, I'm just going to close it. Now anyway, no need to do any setups from here, so I'm closing directly. And other point what I'll do is I'll just sign out and sign in from the current user. Otherwise the update system may not take sometimes. Done. Now Fusion user has approve limit up to 50,000. 50 or less than 50 can be approved by Fusion user. Now we'll create invoice from the Fusion user, the same or less than 50. The notification should come to the same user, and the same user has to perform the action called as approve. That's how we have. It's not like system will understand and it will just uh, approve automatically by checking. The action should be taken by this user. So now go to invoice workbench. Say create invoice. Select your supplier. And one more point here, we did some withholding tax related setups and all, right? Okay, I'll just go and uncheck those. Site level and do that level I'll just remove. Otherwise, every time system will throw that same error message, because in this environment seems to there is some issue with the withholding, right? So I'll just go and uncheck those options. Okay, here from site you have to disable it. Just give me 1 second. 1 second. Sorry. Fine. Now let's go and disable at site level first. Site assignments level. I'll remove the group. I'll check it. That's a save and close. Now anyway, this level if you disable, tax won't get applicable. It's not mandatory to remove from profile level also, but I'm going to do it. That if you disable at site assignment level, that is enough. But still I want to do here also. I'm doing that. From now there won't be an issue with this in supplier if you are creating invoice. So your system will be placing the hold whatever we've seen in earlier case. Okay, done. So now we'll go and create an invoice. Go to navigator, go to invoice workbench. Then go to invoice panel, say create invoice. invoice 3. So this user has approval limit up to 50,000. So I'll create invoice just with 25,000. Line level also I'm entering 25,000. Now first I'll submit for validation. Now approval status is required. Now I'll submit for approval. Say initiate. Then the same notification should come to the same user. That's how it works. Okay, notification will come to this user. This user has to take the action of approving or rejecting. So it takes some time generally. So generally notification will come to this bell icon, notification icon. Okay, here it will come. Otherwise, the notification you can see from dashboard also. Okay, just to take some time. Just only we have to just refresh. If you're not getting the notification even after waiting for 2 to 3 minutes, I recommend you to sign out and sign in, because the notification has to through with this BPM and all. It has to check the validations. It may takes just a couple of minutes sometimes. What I'll do is I'll just sign out and sign in. Now directly I'll go to the, seems to no notification came earlier. Also you can see the 6 notifications are there which are not related to what we did. So directly I'll go to the dashboard, and dashboard level you can see where system will be showing some action is required by you, means B. Just go to payables. Under that we have payables dashboard. There you should find that notification. Even it will come in the notification icon, the bell icon. There also it should come, but it may take some time over there. But here immediately you can see. See here, require my approval. Okay, require my approval. The title is approval of invoice number 3 from Fusion supplier, which is related to Fusion supplier. The invoice amount is $25,000. Now what we have to do is, if you want to open, you can open. You can see the detailed information within that, or else select it and simply click on approve or reject. I am going to approve it. No comments. Okay. Generally the same notification here also it will come. It is taking time to come get update here into this section. Now I'll go and verify the status of this invoice. Go to invoices. So manage invoices. Okay, just you can open this, click on that, you can see the status. Approved status is workflow approved. Done, that's it. Okay, sorry, it's not expanding. Okay. So workflow approved, invoice is approved, that's all. Now what I'll do is, the second case will test. We'll create invoice, standard invoice with 60,000. We'll create, Fusion user will be creating with the 60,000, but Fusion user doesn't have approval limit for 60. Up to 50 only we have approval limits for Fusion user. This notification should goes to Fusion India user. Okay, we'll see that. Now say click on done. Say create invoice. We are getting invoice from the Fusion user, but limit is only 50. I will create with the sys that should goes to Fusion India, where that user has more than 50. If you want to set, if not this user, this should goes to so and so person, that you can set through supervisory rule. So here I will say Fusion supplier. I'll say invoice 4. I'll enter 60,000, but this user has only limit up to 50. Say $60,000. Validate this invoice. Approval is required and initiate approvals. Then submit it. Just wait for at least 1 minute. What I'll do is I'll just sign out and sign in. Fusion. Okay. Now seems to we got notification also. The previous one, current one. So these are the previous. Just as a action required it came, and as approved also it came to the same user. Now the current notification is not yet updated. No issues. You can go to the dashboard. From there you can find it. Here it takes some time to reach this function. Go to payables dashboard. Now Fusion user cannot approve it. That is the reason you cannot see under this require my approval. For this invoice, that should be pending from other users. So under this list you can find it. Pending approvals from other users. Now you can see 15. The reason is this user have access to multiple business units since we use the common set. So that is the reason these all are appearing which are related to other business units. But if you have access to only your BU related notifications only you can see. Now anyway, within the list you can find our invoice related notification also, as it is pending from Fusion India user. Just click on this pending. See here you can see our invoice also under the title of pending approval from other. See invoice number, this is the due date and amount. Who is the current approver? You can just drag and you can see here. For this invoice, current approver is Fusion India. Now we'll log into the system as a Fusion India user and we'll be able to approve it. Here you can see the notification. Action required. Approval of invoice number 4 from the Fusion Supplier 2 is with 60,000. You can click on this, or else since this user has a access to notifications dashboard also, from there you can see. Because for this user we assign only payables related roles. So that's the reason from here you cannot see any setup and maintenance and all. No access to do the system configuration. Only this user can work on payables related functionality. So here go to payables dashboard. Here it will be appearing as require my approval because this user can approve it, right? Require my approvals. Okay, here 60,000. You can just select it. or else you can open this, click on that, it will open the pop-up window. So there is some blocker, always allow. Maybe it's taking time and all, no issues, we don't have to worry about it. Fine, here you have like if you click on that, it will be opening in the pop-up window to see the detailed information that you can try when you're practicing. Now just I'm going to approve it as a Fusion India user because I have a limit more than 50. There's no how much means there is no limit. If it is more than 50, I can approve it. Say approve and write comments here. And sign out, and from that user will go and see the status of invoice. Okay, now go to invoice workbench. You can go and see the status of this invoice. I mean status in the sense of approval status. Not required. We have invoice number, right? Just open this, click on the invoice number. You can see the status as workflow approved. Okay. So this is all about invoice approvals to understand in the basic level. Okay. Actually, this is a planned and this is what we are just doing in every batch as a part of course schedule. Okay, if time permits and all, just I'll be trying with other options also. I'll be showing other options, but already we are in payables and it's the 20th session. Almost 40 hours we spend. We have to see still how many hours we are going to spend. It's not going to be too much time. Then I'll try to show those also. Otherwise, just if you have any information required, I'll be available to discuss on that to guide you how to do that. Okay, that's all about invoice approvals. Okay, any questions, please, on withholding tax and invoice approvals, what we tried. Okay. Any questions?
Hey, Lakshman, okay.
Please.
Can I go? Okay. My question is actually, suppose if you want to move this from one instance to another instance, is there any approach or we have to do the same again?
What you want to move?
The same workflow. So like, what are the changes we made to the BPM?
Need to see.
Suppose
Yeah. All the setups you can move from one environment to another environment. That you can do it. This also comes under setups only. The separate process.
How we can do it?
Okay. There is a process where you can extract, I mean export all these setups into spreadsheets that you can import, that you can load into other instance. That's how we can do it. I'll take you through that. I'll take you through that. First we'll go with the actual course content. Okay, I'll take you through that. I'll show you that option, what is the process and all. Yeah, we'll do it.
Okay, no, thank you.
Yeah. Fine. Okay.
Hey, Lakshman, this is Armstrong.
Yeah, Armstrong, please.
You show the invoice approval, it worked very well. I have only one question. You don't need to answer in the setup voice, just high level. If I want to receive this notification in a user email, via email, and I want to approve it, what kind of setups we have to enable it to
Okay.
receive this
Yeah,
notification
no,
in
no,
my
no.
email?
Yeah, see, system side, there are not too much, but only you have to connect to the mail server. That has to be
Okay.
done by
Yeah.
these experts, like BPM expert can do that. So who are working on BPM technical side, those people who are expert, I see BPM means now we are talking about functional front, right? So
Yes.
you can have like you have a very big organization. There are many rules and policies need to be written in terms of routing these notifications and approval. Definitely you have to hire one BPM expert who can
Okay.
create the new workflows. So that expert is aware of how to route those notifications through email and all. That will be SMPT servers and all. Through that can be routed to email. So that is additional
Yes.
configuration which need to be done.
Additional.
Even we do in EBS also same approach. Here also remains same.
Yes.
But
Yes. Yes.
yeah, that's it.
Okay. So on the side note, today I tried to log in the old instance where I used to practice. The user ID use regularly worked, but today it's not working. Is it instant got refreshed or?
Yeah. Not instance. The user passwords got refreshed, and whatever
Okay.
the initial username and password we shared, you try with that, it will work. The initial.
Okay. Okay.
Initial
Okay.
anytime.
That is same.
Yeah, I want to give you a simple note related to this. Anytime when you are trying on this instance, whatever your login credentials you have, if those are not going to work, you try with whatever we given. If those
Okay.
also not going to work, only the solution is please wait for some time, we'll reset. Then in that case, only whatever we given, that will be working. Through that you can log in and you can reset the password to your user. And
Okay.
sometimes you may not find your user in that environment. In that case, only the solution is you have to start from beginning.
Created.
Yep.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
it.
man.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's all about what we scheduled for today. If you like these sessions and all, hope you can refer your friends. Otherwise, they'll go here and there. They'll be having bad experience. You know that. I'm not saying we are doing a wonderful, great job and all, but I could see in the market many people are joining in our classes by saying that I joined there, I learned, but nothing I learned. I wasted time, money, etc. They are telling. So by taking that point as a reference, I'm just I'm just rising on point as a request. If you have a people like friends, somebody is planning to learn, you can refer us if you like our trainings. That's it. I'm not straight away saying please refer. If you like and love these classes what we are just having, you may refer your friends or your colleagues or something else. Okay, that's up to you. I'm just giving some point as a request, that's all. Okay, any other questions, please let me know.
Lakshman, this is Venkat.
Yeah, please, Venkat.
As you specified the references, sir, I'm asking, see, this supply chain management also you are going to teach, right?
Supply chain management, how I can teach? This course is finance, right? I will be touching,
No.
just see, I'll take you through the just basic purchasing configuration and purchasing.
No, my friend. Lakshman, what I'm asking is, see, to refer my friends, one of my friend is looking for the supply chain management course.
Okay, got it.
You people are offering that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, I got your point. Yes, we are offering this some list of courses. We are handling these trainings primarily. I can include this SCM, CRM also we are handling now. So these courses we are handling very primarily. This is a list. Okay,
So,
Vision Financials. Yep.
You are going to handle only financials or other?
No.
You handle some other modules also.
I handle like these first two only, financials and PPM. Okay. So one more point.
Okay.
See, you are finding the quality. I hope you are finding the quality of training, whatever I am taking care of, whatever the classes I'm taking.
Right.
When I'm going to hire some trainer also, when I'm going to take some trainer, I look for almost same. May not be exactly, but better than many other trainers in the market. I do thorough validation, I'll be testing in the different way their approach and their patience, what they'll be delivering. I'll be putting some terms and conditions for the classes what they'll be taking. That's how I'll be having the trainers, and I'll make sure that there'll be quality, no doubt. If you are looking for some apart from these two trainings I'll take care of. Rest of all trainings I have some expert trainers. Really, there are expert trainers, not just for words. Okay, really, they're expert trainers. And if you want to know that, I just for HCM already I posted that a demo video in the YouTube. You can go through that. You can see the level of expertise of the trainer and other things also. We have good trainers. Okay, if you have some friends who are looking for other than finance and PPM, you can refer them. Let them just come and attend the demo. If they like, love it, then only they can attend. We don't restrict the people just for one session. We'll allow for 2, 3, 4 sessions also, so that they can understand how the trainer is going to explain. We don't say only demo one class will allow without paying. Okay, no issues, that we don't worry about it. If person is going to continue, definitely they'll be paying, that we know that. So that's the reason, not only just one session, 2, 3, 4 also will allow. So that's how it works. So we have a good trainers for these also, these areas. If you have friends, you can refer. I'll take care of the quality of training, no doubt in that. Okay, I don't compromise with the quality, because that should be there. That is a first target I have. The quality is required. Along with the quality, there should be very good course content. There should be very good coverage of the course, good learning. That's what. And that too, that should be in the very systematic manner. It's not like on the fly trainer will explain something and you don't list out somewhere, you don't write, don't refer something, don't compare with EBS and all. It should be all courses, classes will be like with EBS comparison only. We'll compare with EBS. That's how we'll be running. That I'll take care of with the trainer. So that's how we'll do. Sorry. So that's all about the trainings which we are offering. And very soon we are going to start this BI training also. BI pub, we know that is a completely technical learning. Again, hardly 25 to 30 hours required for that. But in our classes also, I'm going to show you just how to create the very basic report, very basic report with a simple statements, SQL statements. But if somebody is looking, see, nowadays what happening is, if you are going to work as a functional consultant, it can be fusion, finance or PPM or procurement, whatever. Anyway, you are expertised, and anyway, client doesn't require additional resource to do the data conversions. And if there are some integrations, as they'll hire some SOA, okay, SOA, service oriented architecture, and if they need many customizations and all, maybe BPM expert they'll be hiring as a part of technical. But reports and all, generally clients will be expecting us to develop the reports as per their custom needs. So in that case, being a functional consultant, now current market expectation is we have to be expertised on BI. But I'm not saying everybody now, the people who are working all are BI experts. But that's how you can see the requirement. The client or the team, project team says, anyway, you are okay with everything. Why can't you start working on BI? That sort of expectations we can see when we are working in any project. That's the reason, if you people are interested, you can just inform us who are interested to attend the BA classes. Very soon I can arrange the sessions. We have a good trainer for that. Hardly it will take 25 to 30 hours, because you can learn from the scratch, from ABC till Z almost. Okay, that's how the sessions will be conducting. So if anybody is interested, just express your interest to email by writing email. So then we'll take it up forward. Okay, so that's all about the BA training which we scheduled. Okay. So that's it. Any other questions, please, related to today's class or anything?
Lakshman, one quick question.
Yeah.
Today you have explained about that, like about the approval groups assigned to specific employee. But instead of, if you want to go through the employee supervisor hierarchy level, how do you do the setup?
That's what. When we are setting there, I selected approval group, right? Rule definition time, I selected group.
Yeah.
Okay. There, instead of selecting the group, I'll go with the supervisor.
Okay.
I'll go with the supervisor. Then what will set is, this if will give the limit. If the limit is more than that, means it has to go to supervisor, or else straight away you can set, if this amount is exceeding, that should be rejected automatically. You can set in that way. Oh,
okay.
yeah. I hope will have one session on that, but I'm not promising, because for these sessions only too much time we are spending. Okay, I believe that 80 plus hours will cross. Okay, so if time permits, or else we'll try to get time to do this. We'll see. We'll see. Otherwise, at
Do you
least
have any document for that one?
a document. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll check it. I'll check it. If I have, I can share with you all guys.
That
Yep.
will be great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Fine. Any questions on this? Okay, since no queries, I'm just going to wind up the session. Okay, then see you tomorrow. Have a good day and good night. Thank you.